Good night. Good night. I want Jerome Walker to know I am asking no questions tonight to Frundell Stewart. We want Frundell Stewart and the Democratic Labour Party to go. I have no questions tonight for Frundell Stewart and the Democratic Labour Party. And I make no apologies for that. I asked him just now, can I tear up the Democratic Labour Party manifesto? Because the Democratic Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party members have lied to the people of this country. And that is what I come here to talk about tonight. And I know that the people who are in the audience tonight are here because when they saw the message for the meeting, enough is enough, they understood that the Barbados Labour Party is calling them to action. We have had enough in this country, and it is no longer simple enough for us to stay quiet. Because when we stay quiet, we allow the Democratic Labour Party to believe that they can do as they like to the people of this country. I am tired of the hurt that I hear every day from people calling me all across Barbados, all across St. Michael's Southeast. I am tired when I hear the people who were hired during the election campaign tell me that they have now been laid off by a government that promised them that it was the Barbados Labour Party that would lay them off if we won the next general election. I am tired of hearing people saying how they have been treated by a Democratic Labour Party administration and the way that they've handled the layoffs as if people don't deserve any better in this country. That you can just turn up for work thinking that you're coming to do something to change the lives of people, and then you get handed papers as if you are nothing in this country. I am here tonight because I have had enough of the Democratic Labour Party. I remember in 1991, I was only a little girl. But I remember that my father, Santia Bradshaw, people like Lionel Craig, Sir Richard Cheltenham and others marched in this country because the Democratic Labour Party cut the public servant salaries by 8%. And I understood then, as I do now, that if you don't stand for something in this country, then you will fall for everything. And therefore, when we say to people across this country that we have had enough and that Barbados deserves better, it is because the Barbados Labour Party understands that we can do better. Because we are a people that are accustomed to punching above our weight. We are a proud Barbados Labour Party, a legacy that we have left behind. That when we took people and gave them the right to vote in the days of Sir Grantley Adams, and we brought them through the years, and you hear people talk about Sir Henry Ford and how he allowed people, the women, to be able to be enfranchised in this country. And you hear about Tom Adams, and you hear about the ABC Highway, and you hear about the vision of the legends in the Barbados Labour Party. And you come through the years, and you have people like Owen Seymour Arthur, an unprecedented legacy of leadership in this country. And now we have to put up with the Democratic Labour Party telling us that better cannot be done in this country. I say to you, the people tonight in Carrington Village, in Quakers Road, wherever you have come from, that enough is enough. And when I say enough is enough, it is because I want to hit the streets. I want to put my feet on the concrete with a placard in my hand and tell the government of Barbados that they will not silence me. They will not silence the people of this country. And as for Mr. Jones, the crackhead and shoot people minister, well, I will tell him they can't crack all of our heads and shoot all of us. And we must stand up as a people to be counted. Because future generations are depending on us for their survival. Our own survival right now depends on what we do next. And it isn't about being afraid to speak out. It isn't about being afraid to say that we can't take it no more. It isn't about that. Isn't that we don't like members of the Democratic Labour Party? There's some we don't like. But at the end of the day, we don't like what they're doing. And whether individually or collectively, we have to send a message to them in our numbers that we have simply had enough. I am tired of the talk. I am tired of the meetings. I am tired of coming out in my red shirt and coming before you, the people of this country, and saying that the Democratic Labour Party making we suck salt. That things going on in other territories and people are outperforming Barbados, my Barbados, and your Barbados. These are things that it gets to my soul. And I come here angry tonight, but resolute in a mission to let the people of this country know that the Barbados Labour Party is ready to hit the road. And we're going to do it peacefully. Because last night I had the opportunity to talk to a member of the Barbados Police Force. And I believe he was speaking in his personal capacity. But when we started to talk about the fact that there are people in public life that have a responsibility to say certain things and we can influence certain things in this country, and that we have to be very careful what we say, I said to him, but you're going to the extreme that you think that people in this country are inciting a riot, or we're asking people to come out and assault people in this country. That's not what we're doing. That is the extreme. Why is it that the people of this country cannot come out in their numbers peacefully and walk wherever the Barbados Labour Party says they will walk from and protest what is happening in this country? In Venezuela, people are hitting the streets. That's just down the road. People are protesting the high unemployment in their country. They're protesting the change in their standard of living. They're protesting things that they know is not right in their country. And Bajans can sit down. We can sit down and allow anybody to come and do anything to us because we don't care about anything. We don't care about ourselves. We have gotten to the point now where we listen to a Democratic Labour Party that will tell us that we can't do any better in tourism. But yet you can open any newspaper, you can go on the internet, and you can see that places that Barbados once considered itself to be better than, whether or not we were correct or not, we felt that we were the best that we could be, the best in the Caribbean. And we were proud of our educational system. We were proud of who we are. And now today, this Democratic Labour Party will tell us that we can't do no better. That when you can hear St. Lucia's statistics for tourism, their arrivals at 3.5%, and Barbados is down by 5.6%. When you can hear that even in places like Bermuda, they're considering restructuring their industry to even introduce casinos because they understand that they have to be more competitive if they're going to survive in the global marketplace. When you can hear these things happening in other territories, in other islands, that Barbados never had a competitive edge under before. We now find ourselves in a situation where they're telling us the air passenger duty is what is affecting the Caribbean. But other territories in the region can perform better than Barbados. I say to you tonight, you have to think for yourselves. You have to move aside all of the smoke and mirrors that the Democratic Labour Party is bringing to you. And it is not about opposing for the sake of opposing, but I am telling you, I am sick and tired of talking to people and feeling their pain. I am sick and tired of knowing that there are people who are now below the poverty line and they don't know what is going to happen when they go to the welfare department. Because I had the opportunity to go to the welfare department a couple of weeks ago, and it pained me to see what people in this country have to go through. They didn't recognize me at first, so I get treated like everybody else. But I can tell you, it is an inhumane place for people to have to go to receive social services in this country. And if at the end of the day, this administration proposes to lay off a couple thousand more people, those people who were barely hanging on, what is going to be left for them? And each and every one of us have been impacted in some way by the policies of the Democratic Labour Party. There are Democratic Labour Party people out there who cussing them too. So if they're cussing them, we got to cuss them too. And we have to say that better can be done. We came to the platform last election and we level with the people of this country. I believe in my heart that the people of Barbados were ready for a journey where we could see a transition in this country and in this economy. It wasn't about all the talk, it was about something that we felt in our hearts, that there could be a better tomorrow for Barbados, and that it didn't have to be business as usual. And that just because we may have made mistakes before, it wasn't about making those mistakes again. But now we have a Democratic Labour Party that every time they open their mouth to talk about what they should be doing, they blame the Barbados Labour Party for where we are. But I want to tell you, they cannot blame the Barbados Labour Party for 6 years of running a deficit in this country. 6 years they have been the government, and they have spent more than they have earned. And that is what we got to talk about. When they came to office, they found money. If they didn't find money, they wouldn't have been talking about no fatted calf. But they came in and they lick up and eat up and drink up the fatted calf. And now it means that all of us have to suck salt because they spent all the money, and now we are in a position where we have to pick up the pieces and we have to take it. Well, I tell you, I ain't taking it. I ain't taking it. I'm ready to walk, and I hope Miss Motley come in here tonight to tell when we walking, because that's what we need to do. And if she don't tell you, you need to tell her we are ready to walk. We done with these meetings. We need to have our voices and our faces heard. We can't be fearing anything anymore. This Democratic Labour Party put an old lady on the television to tell and to convince people in this country that we would increase bus fares on them. Can you imagine? I have said to them that they should be locked up rather for treating an old lady like that. But that is just symptomatic of the things that the Democratic Labour Party is capable of doing. It is only a taste of the lies that the Democratic Labour Party has put out there to the people of this country. And we as a people have to say that enough is enough. Because we cannot continue to allow them to believe that they can shove anything down our throats, that we can wake up one morning and realize that 1,800 people have been laid off in this country. But when we tally our newspaper reports, we can't find the 1,800 that they would have told to the press. And then we have to ask ourselves, whose Barbados is this? Because if the government comes and they says they're going to do something by a certain time, surely, given the impact that these numbers are going to have on Barbadians, they owe it to us to tell us where these people are coming from, where the layoffs are coming from, and what the impact is going to be once the layoffs are made. And whether or not we are able to close our deficit, or by how much we are able to close it. But they don't tell us that. Instead, we have to read in the newspaper that 1,800 people have gone home. And I have to ask myself, what are Barbadians doing and saying? I hear you on the call-in programs every single day, giving the Democratic Labour Party licks. But is that enough? Is that enough? Because in a few hours, you can't make your voices heard. The only way we will make our voices heard is when we come out in our numbers. When they can count and they can see the opposition to the policies that they have inflicted on the people of this country. It is then and only then that this government will understand that they have gone off track. Not just their medium-term fiscal strategy, but that they as a government have gone off track. And perhaps the most telling thing is when a minister of the government will come out and side with everything that the Barbados Labour Party has said in the last election. So when David Eswick can tell the people of this country in a presentation to his cabinet that constituency councils and summer camps and the David Thompson football tournament should never have been inflicted on the people of this country, well, I say it is time to hit the streets. Because if he will not resign, the voices of the people of this country have to be heard. We have to force him into a position that he understands that he must now do the right thing. And he cannot ignore the people of this country and the voices of this country. He can ignore the Barbados Labour Party members in Parliament. But I assure you, he can't ignore all of you. And you don't have to come out in your red. You see, I'm angry, eh? And when I'm angry, my throat will start to get dry. But this is the passion that I feel here tonight. I ain't gonna choke. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm telling you, the day that they announced the layoffs, I was ready with my piece of paper to go outside in front of Parliament. And we end up debating the energy bill. And I tell you now, I was ready since then. So my anger has been going for a long time. But when I have to sit down and listen to these people in Parliament continue to lie about the lack of implementation of policies in this country and behave as though they don't even understand what is happening across Barbados, I have to wonder if none of the people in their constituencies don't go to them. Or is it that they can't find them and that's why they can't go to them? Because they come to me and at the end of the day, I continue to feel a sense of loss for my country. I don't want to wake up one day and have to say, oh shoot, we should have done something, you know. Oh shoot, why we didn't tell the people more? And I don't want you, the people of this country, to wonder why it is that you didn't do more. Because if you're making the same amount of money, but when you go into the supermarket, the price of a tin of corned beef or a tin of tuna is now 3 times the price of what it used to be. That is not the Barbados to which we want to aspire. And I don't know what it will take for Bajans to realize how close we are to the very, very edge. But I pray and I hope that it doesn't come to that, where the Barbados you go to sleep with one night is not the Barbados that you wake up with the next day. I pray and I hope that that is not the case. And that Bajans understand that a call to action is not just about talk. It is not just about us opposing for the sake of opposing. But it is about sending a message to the future generations as well that we stood for something. That history will be kind to the people in this generation and will reflect that we stood up for what we believed in. That we didn't just put on a red shirt and march down the road and that was the end of it. That we did what we knew we had to do in order to protect the Barbados dollar and to protect Barbadians and future generations. Because when we have reached this point in our history where people are afraid to speak out, people are afraid to be associated in public places criticizing the government of this country, something is wrong. And it is a dangerous precedent that we set if we allow these things to continue. It is a dangerous precedent. When you check the International Monetary Fund's Article 4 report, and it's not the Barbados Labour Party saying it, the things that are required to bring about growth in this country, the IMF have said, whether it is the Pierhead Marina project, whether it is their waste to energy project, low-income housing, road facilitation projects, sandals, it doesn't matter. The International Monetary Fund has said to the people of this country that they do not anticipate that we will get the growth that we need to get us out of this mess. How much clearer does it have to be? And the reasons they have expressed are simply because the numbers that the government has given them that would demonstrate to them that there will be an increase in employment or that the things will happen in a timely manner to make a difference in this year, in this financial year, are simply not a reality. So if the IMF is going to pronounce on Barbados, you mean to tell me Bajans going to continue to sit down idly and say nothing? That's what we're saying? Because for those who say to us, the IMF is a bad thing, I say to them, read the report. Because the IMF also said to this country in that report that since 2011, they told the government of Barbados that they needed to come in to do their investigation into what was happening in the economy. They suggested to the government of Barbados that they needed to have a credible fiscal consolidation strategy because the medium-term fiscal strategy wasn't working. The revised medium-term fiscal strategy wasn't working. And they told the people, the government of Barbados what they had to do. But what do you think they did? They didn't act on what the International Monetary Fund said. The report actually says that this government delayed the International Monetary Fund coming in and investigating and talking to whether it was the opposition, the private sector, the trade unions, even to the government. They delayed it. Why? Because of a general election. And that is something that you people ought to understand. That the Democratic Labour Party put party first before people. And by putting party first before people is why we are in the position that we are in today. And it cannot continue. And I say to you that whether you have come here as Barbados Labour Party members tonight, whether you have come here as disillusioned Democratic Labour Party members, whether you have come here as people who took the money on election day and upset because what you got was not what you expected, whether you are here as little children in the crowd because your grandmother or your grandfather has brought you here, I say to you tonight, we have to do what is the right thing. And the right thing is to have our voices heard, but also to come out in our numbers and be able to make a statement to this government that Bajans will not sit idly by. There is no other country in the Caribbean that would sit down and take what Barbadians are taking today. Whether you are poor, whether you are middle income, whether you are rich in this country today, you are feeling the effects of the Democratic Labour Party policies. And no global recession and all this foolishness that they're talking about is not what has got us here. Don't let them fool you about that, because they're very good at casting blame. But when you look at the things that they could have done to stop the hemorrhaging in this country, they have simply not done it. And therefore, my appeal to you tonight, and I believe the appeal of all of the speakers tonight, is to simply to send a message to the people of this country that apart from having enough, we need to do more. And we have to get the ball going. And I see you nodding your heads. And I want to tell you, Bajans are a very laid-back set of people, you know. We don't like to show emotion. But I'm telling you, if I hurting, I know you hurting. And when we say we want to march, that's what the Labour Party want to hear. This is not 1991 where 27,000 people were affected. This is affecting the entire country. This is not 8%. Whether it is that you can't pay your bills, whether you can't send your children to school, whether it is that your businesses are not surviving, whatever it is, you have all been affected by the policies and the neglect of the Democratic Labour Party administration. And tonight, I pray and hope that when we leave here tonight, it is with a view and a renewed energy on the people of this country, that whatever we have to do next, we will do in a peaceful way. They say that we can't march peacefully. And I say to them, in America, in Washington, D.C., 1 million men marched, and they never believed that 1 million black men could march in Washington, D.C., and they did it. And I believe in the power of my people to be able to march peacefully and to protest peacefully and to stand for something. As I did in 1991, when I didn't even understand the things that I know now. But I knew then still that what I was doing was the right thing. Because so many things cannot be done by a government, and we stand idly by and do nothing. We lose everything if we allow the Democratic Labour Party to continue on its current course. And I say to you tonight, join with us in the Barbados Labour Party in ensuring that we bring back the country Barbados that we know, and that we have something to leave for future generations, and that we do not look back on history and ask ourselves why we did nothing. I thank you, and good night.